G'day, nerds. Welcome back to the feature match here, Friday night, and Corey Barmeister. We're back. Better than ever? Remains to be seen.
I think so.
We are certainly back, however. That is indisputable, Corey, and we've got Shintaro Ishimura and Sam Rolph playing off against each other here. Two decks that we've already seen on camera today a couple of times. We've got Rogues in the northern half of your screen, and this weird Vadrock deck in the southern half. And a question, Corey, to kick things off. We haven't seen the Vadrock combo aspect go off hugely here. It's not really this. I mean, I guess it is the centerpiece of the deck, but it's not the plan A of the deck, is it?
Yeah, definitely not the plan A, and it is something that I'm totally with you. We have not seen a lot of, and we also haven't seen a lot of two into the stories. Two? Excuse me? Like, that was actually mind-blowing. But coming from Shintaro's always bringing some spice, so I'm not too surprised to see some deviation on this.
Oh, yeah, speaking of spice, how about a Vantress Gargoyle? Look at that. This Rogues list is definitely cut from a different cloth. Crippling Fear as well, a 2 of in the main deck, or at least a 2 of, I should say. Here's the Vadrock, turn 3. Looks like Sam Rolph's having a little bit of a conversation with himself as he agrees very strongly with
withdrawing that land. Yeah.
I guess, yes, that's good. Very good.
Yeah, I still cannot believe it. I would have bet everything I own that the Gyruda player would have been Shintaro, right? We've seen Shintaro play Gyruda before, but to see Rogues, pretty surprising, but with seeing this very different list, it all adds up now.
Vadrock's not going to stick around for too long here. Power word kill, or as Corey says, power word kill.
Yeah, you said it right the second time. I agree.
Yep. And Vantress Gargoyle sticks around. Not, of course, not going to be able to attack. Its condition's not yet satisfied, but won't be long. Fire Prophecy deals with Merfolk Wind Robber before it can be sacrificed to draw a card. And Rolph going to take the opportunity to rummage here. Looking for another land. Finds one in Ralgren Triome.
Yeah, all these Fire Prophecies in Sam's hand, staring at a 5/4. That is, some nice metagaming from Shintaro and making a lot of removal spells completely dead against that card. And, a very heads-up play from him to recognize that hold, right? Like, there's a lot of red-base removal in the metagame right now, and Gargoyle escapes a lot of it.
4 toughness is a good number, it's a good amount of toughness to have currently with all the 2 and 3 damage spells that are flying around. But one thing I really don't like about it, it dies real bad to Prismari Command, which so many decks are playing.
That is a good point. With all of these mutate decks running around, Prismari Command kind of everywhere. Yeah, and I think that is even what Sam was saying in his little pre-match interview is like, Shintaro's list is pretty weak to Prismari Command, so it's going to be a card that Sam's going to put a high equity on. Probably not siding any of those out.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. I mean, it's a good card at the best of times. Very flexible, obviously. Can offer you a lot of different, depending on it can make the tool you need fit the job. And here, just taking out an artifact for free isn't too bad. But now Vantress Gargoyle's getting busy. Look at this, popping on the dancing shoes and heading off to a funeral. This is an attack for 8. A lot of damage now as Sam Rolph's graveyard has fallen off.
Yeah, a lot of damage, and we see the necessary Drown in the Loch in the hand for any Rogues players here.
Naturally.
Absolutely. And now Shintaro is just thinking, should I fire this off now, or should I wait until after Sam draws and then fire it off? Because no matter what, you're going to get that treasure. If there is a negate or something like that on Sam Rolph's side, you're going to be able to counter it. But I like just firing it off now or upkeep before there is another chance to draw a card.
Fire Prophecy is still going to get cast in response, of course, while that treasure made 2 mana, and the Unsubstantiate replaces the card that was in hand there. Here's an expressive iteration. And, okay, here's some business.
Yeah. That was a huge draw there, being able to put something to hand, iterate again here, maybe find a land, maybe not. But, the pressure is on Sam here. This is a large attack, plus Luris is face up here, so bringing back another creature on top of it. It's going to be a little tricky, but there's that Prismari Command. But nothing, no land, so these cards are just going to go away. Interesting to not see that put into hand instead of the Lord Dracus.
Well, when all's said and done, Rolph with A couple of mutate creatures and an unsubstantiate, facing down a 2-turn clock here with no real way to do anything about it. He can cast the unsubstantiate, gain himself a little bit of time, but that's not a permanent solution here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see, even if we don't have another creature, which I believe we saw Soaring Thought Thief, you have that combo of Merfolk Windrobber, be able to draw a card, bring it back with Lurrus again, if Shintaro so chooses.
So gross, dude. So gross. Drawing an extra card with Windrobber every turn. Man.
Yeah. I just see Shintaro being like, drawing 4 cards with Into the Story. Nah, that's not me. The classic meme, like, put your hands away from that. Drawing 1 card off Merfolk. Windrobber, on the other hand, yes, please.
Yeah, it's so weird to only see 2 copies of Into the Story, a card that we have characterized as one of, if not the best card in the entire deck. Here is Vadrok once again. And Lord Drakus mutated onto the Vadrok, and that's going to take the pressure off a little bit, as we can bring back a removal spell, maybe cycle away that unsubstantiate here with the Fire Prophecy.
Yeah, pretty good here. You get to hazard away one of the flyers. You get to kill Lurrus, and then that still is lethal with the Crippling Fear, I believe, here. I guess Gargoyle and Merfolk Windrobber do not share a type, so that's a big problem. Normally Crippling Fear was just give everything -3/-3 that isn't on my side of the board, but when you mix up these creature types, that doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, as pieces of like innovative technology, Vantress Gargoyle and Crippling Fear put in together, as that doesn't they don't work too well together, to be honest. But this Crippling Fear is still going to just be a slow murder, basically, to get rid of the Vadrok. Keep everything else alive.
Also, sorry to interrupt you there, but what is also a little brutal here? Being able to attack with Gargoyle, blocking with Vadrok, and then just using the Spikefield hazard with first strike damage. Then just not having to lose Vadrok. But since we did return that, Shintaro should be pretty aware of this, and I imagine won't walk into it.
Do you just play the Crippling Fear, name Rogue, and then attack for 4? Like, that seems fine, right? It's obviously not ideal. It doesn't win on the spot, but...
I think you name Gargoyle, and you sack the 2 Windrobbers to draw a card. Name Gargoyle, Vadrok goes away.
Ooh. Whoa.
Yeah, this is interesting.
I mean, for those of you who are perhaps tuning in to your first Magic broadcast here, welcome. By all means, welcome if you're new. But generally when a commentator says interesting, they tend to mean bad. And we're seeing what is, again, an interesting attack here from Shintaro Ishimura, sacrificing the Vantress Gargoyle. Well, I guess exchanging it for the face-up Spikefield hazard there.
Yeah, I guess the hazard would have taken out the Gargoyle anyways there. If you just Crippling Fear, name Rogues, then in response, you get the hazard on the Gargoyle.
If you took your line and didn't name Rogues, you named Gargoyle instead, then...
You'd have a 5/4, that's for sure.
Well, anyway, we move on. Double Windrobber and a Thieves Guild Enforcer here facing off against this Vadrok. Don't forget it has first strike, of course. Another Vantress Gargoyle off the top.
So now, as far as from Shintaro's point of view, this Crippling Fear is lethal. So you just name Rogues again, and that card's gone, but it's very susceptible to any kind of disruption. So you also have that Hive to be able to attack with. That's an uncounterable way of getting through. But if you have, like, let's say, Scorching Dragonfire or an Unsubstantiate, it becomes a little trickier. I believe you can still bounce the Hive with Unsubstantiate. Maybe it is non-land. Because that does have Menace.
Unsubstantiate can hit the Hive. It's return target spell or creature.
Okay, so Vadrok being able to block Thieves Guild Enforcer here, bounce the Hive, pretty impressive, but getting that Prismari command out of the graveyard is pretty valuable as well.
So a block and an Unsubstantiate on the Hive. And there are a lot of spells that wouldn't be able to do that because they say return non-target non-land permanent, but not so this time around. So this Vadrok really having to punch above its weight, but not finding the goods here as a mountain as it comes off the top of Sam Rolph. He doesn't hide his displeasure at that. Attacks with the Vadrok. No, decides not to do... make the attack that will leave him dead on board. But I believe he's already dead on board, right?
Is dead on board. You saw Sam reach for the concede button there. It is just if Shintaro pulls the same play he did last turn, it's going to be GG. Even the crippling fear would be GG. So as long as Shintaro just makes game actions, this should be game one going to Shintaro. And Rogues really does have a good game one against a lot of things. Then we're going to start seeing some escape cards come in and the decks be a little bit more finely tuned to be able to deal with these cards. But, oh, wow. Well, the game action was not taken. I guess this still works, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Shintaro Ishimura had a 2 in 3 chance of playing a lethal card and then just hitting the spacebar until the game was over, and that's exactly what we saw there. The Soaring Thought Thief pumping up the Wind Robbers, and in they come. Sam Rolph, unfortunately for him, his opponent not missing one of the 4 billion lines that were going to be lethal there. And look at this, Crippling Fear, Merfolk Wind Robber coming out. Instead, a bunch of interaction and 2 copies of Skyclave Shade. They're a little more resilient, although I don't like them against the Spikefield Hazards.
Yeah, not great against the Spikefield Hazard, being able to clean those up pretty cleanly, as well as the Cinderclasms. We don't know how many, or Shintaro doesn't know how many of those are going to be left in, so you got to mitigate that a little bit here. So nice choice taking out the Wind Robbers to be able to stop that from being super effective. Pretty nice hands from both players.
Yeah, the opener from Rolph does need a little bit of work. Yep. He'll have to rely on that expressive iteration. But look, we've seen people sort of live and die by expressive iteration. Kai Buddha had the best of it and the worst of it during his match that we covered, Corey. His expressive iteration dug him a long way and found no lands, and then the next game cleaned him up with exactly what he needed.
Yeah, there was a lot of expression from Kai. There was a lot of expression from Kai, but it was just on his face of disgust. There was not a lot of iterating going on.
That's true. I think we'll see a scry here. We might even see a scry in the upkeep if there's no land. No, but Rolph finds the land that he needs, so that one stays on top, and the scry is not going to be needed this time around. Ah, look at this. A beautiful expressive iteration. Well, does he want to keep the 5th land? Probably not, right? Just puts the command in hand and plays the pathway.
With how much he was putting a high equity on Prismari Command, I would assume we see Prismari Command to the hand. Mm-hmm. Exile one of these, play the other one, and probably, you have to play this land. But being able to have an answer for Gargoyle, Sam's hand was pretty weak to it. There was the Dragon's Fire to reveal a Goldspan Dragon to deal with it, but having Prismari Command, which can just clean up Skyclave Shade as well as Gargoyle here, is pretty big game.
Dangerous Gargoyle coming down as well. And we were talking about how sometimes it can be difficult to get a 2-for-1 with Prismari Command. In fact, it a lot of the time is very difficult. Yeah. Particularly when set against something like Colligan's Command. But here, this is going to be juicy. Oh,
yeah, this is going to be a nice one. We'll see if... I'm sure Sam isn't just going to fire this off on main phase here. Okay, I stand corrected here.
I was going to say, I'm sure he is going to, because otherwise you run into all sorts of counter spells. Otherwise, here it's just Mystical Dispute. You have to play around. But as it is... Kabam! Yeah. Look at this, a stone cold 2-for-1 here. Very nice.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was going to be patient and wait for a possible Thieves Guild Enforcer, which would have been a better second target for the shock. But still a pretty solid play. But now Shintaro has a nice little turn of just playing land 4, bringing back Skyclave Shade, and then still having Disdainful Stroke up for a possible Goldspan Dragon. Pretty solid. At being able to interact there.
So Skyclaves, they always put one card per set, man. They always put one in just to trip us up. Skyclave Shade, yes. Skyclave Shade. Unbelievable. Skyclave Shade comes back as a 3-1. And no shortage of ways to remove it here for Rolph.
Yeah, tons of great cards for Sam, but really looking for lands. When you get put in this position where you have a tome and your opponent is just playing very aggressively into you, you have to be interacting with those things, and then you don't have the ability to just draw a card off tome, and then you get put in this weird spot where you're scrying for lands, and then you're not really doing exactly, you're not maximizing your tome's ability, and then you just have the same amount of cards as your opponent, where tome should be netting you 2 or 3 cards.
Here's the Garg once again, and a Dragon's Fire can actually take it out because of that Goldspan Dragon in hand. That'll deal 4 damage here, the Dragon's Fire, rather than just the regulation 3. And away goes the 5/4. Interesting to see Rolph is not worried about that Skyclave Shade, and here's why. Oh, no.
Yeah. Really I know you want lands here, but I would rather be playing that one as the spell, I think. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is kind of a tough choice, but no, you just slam it, man. You just get rid of that Skyclave Shade for good. For those of you who don't know, of course, the Spikefield has it exiles anything that it damages.
Yep.
And
what an incredible card there. Being able to be a land or exiling effect, killing Edgewall Innkeepers, and then we don't even see the exile ability come up that often, but this is the main reason for it, and it's extremely powerful here.
There's a lot. I mean, we're seeing Cinderclasm see play for this reason as well. There's quite a number of key creatures that have 1 toughness that you need to kill in Standard, and this is why the Skyclave Shades against the deck that has 4 copies of Spikefield Hazard and is unlikely to cut them because they're part of the mana base. That's why it is what we would say in the coverage business, Corey, an interesting decision.
Very interesting. I would have to agree with you. Now the window is going to be pretty open here for Agadeems. Agadeems could be extremely good here. Being able to bring home Gargoyle or bring back Gargoyle. I believe there was a Soaring Thought, not a Soaring Thought Thief, Thieves Guild Enforcer in there as well. We'll see what Shintaro goes for. Could also just negate.
Opts to just let it happen, however. And so that Skyclave Shade won't be coming back no more. Pathway off the top. This will open up that dragon play. But, of course, as we can see, Disdainful Stroke being sandbagged here by Ishimura. I think for that card, right, Corey?
Yep. Shintaro really putting a high equity on just Goldspan Dragon can't resolve at this juncture of the game. And, if it does, being able to attack with it and then start the mutating trains, that's how this game can just end immediately. And we see even with 2 of these Lord Dracuses, it really would have happened if Shintaro tapped out. So a nice heads-up play by him.
Lord Dracus number 2 going to stay in hand for the moment, threatening to keep up that Mystical Dispute, in addition to the Maze Mind Tome. Maze Mind Tome so critical in these decks that want to hold up mana. You don't want to waste your mana when you're playing a more controlling list like this. And Maze Mind Tome, is something to put mana into at the end step is really important. Really important to have that option.
Yes.
Make sure you're not just incinerating mana, chucking it in the garbage every turn.
Yeah, exactly here. I think we're going to see a Lurrus turn where you can also, without having to play your Agadeem's Awakening as a land, you can just bring back the Thieves Guild Enforcer, or just plays the land and gets a Gargoyle. That's another option than still having one of these many 2-mana counter spells available. But this is going to be a big draw step. If Sam can get land number 6 here and can go Goldspan Dragon with Dispute backup, this is how he shifts this game. And with Gargoyle only having 3 cards in hand, cannot do any blocking to Goldspan Dragon. So this could easily be the game here with land 6 or bust.
Yeah, the Gargoyle needs 7 cards in the opposing graveyard to attack and can only block if you, as a controller, have 4 or more cards in hand. So at the moment, it cannot block. Probably can attack. Not 100% sure on that, but certainly no defensive properties here. And no 6th land here for Rolph. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for him. And I think we're going to see a slight change of pace. This can't be Disdainful Struck. Even though 4 mana was spent to cast it, the mana value of the card is still 3. In the upper right-hand corner, it's still just 3. So Disdainful Stroke isn't able to counter it despite 4 mana having been paid for it. And it's put underneath.
Yeah, so this is really nice. You can bring back Spikefield Hazard to your hand and cast one of these removal spells if you so want to, and that would just allow you to play that as a land. Bringing back a land with this is pretty cute, but puts a higher equity on another removal spell and hopes to draw a land here. But yeah, a really nice play and a nice way to catch Sam up.
Why was the Vadrock put underneath the Lord Dracus?
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Is it in case you want to play another Vadrock later, and then it's because it's legendary, you can only have one copy out?
Yeah, you can only have one copy out of it, but you can just mutate it under it to kind of get around that legend rule.
Yeah.
I
guess you want to play another Vadrock as a 3/3 though, separately, that's confusing to me. There could be a reason for that. If there is, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I think the reason might be the one Ray of Enfeeblement in the sideboard as a way to give it -4/-4 as a white creature. That's the only thing I can really think of. But I mean, that is something, right? Because I mean, Ray of Enfeeblement would have been insane there. It would have been absolutely insane. So I think that's a nice heads-up play by Sam, recognizing, you know what, this thing's not attacking. I just need it to survive, and if you can play around one card versus not playing around one card, I'd like to play around one card.
It actually may be more than that. It may be more than one card, and I'll tell you why. Because, Corey, of Nevermind.
Okay, great job, great
I thought Lord Drakus might be a dragon.
Yeah.
Like, what are the, if I tell you that Lord Drakus is a dragon, if I said that with enough confidence, right, people would believe me for sure, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a lizard beast. So. But then, if it were a dragon, it would be immune from Power Word Kill.
That's very true. That's very true. So if the card said something else, he would have been playing around that card as well. Hey, great point.
If the card said something that it didn't actually say, then I'd be right, and that was it. So that was brutal. An attack into the 5/4 creature that can't block and cling to dust to draw a card in response so it can, au contraire, says Shintaro Ishimura. And then just a bit of BM for good measure. Shintaro Ishimura channeling his inner Saffron Olive and really letting Sam Rolph know what's up.
I think it was the good game from Sam. It was Sam saying, yeah, I just did that. That's not great for me. Yeah, that was a huge problem there for Sam. Just throwing away that creature, missing the cling in the graveyard.
And an expressive iteration here to find another Goldspan Dragon, Midnight Clock put back in the deck, and Phoenix of Ash into the exile zone. It's going to be cast with the help of that treasure here.
That's game. We got Soaring Thought Thief plus Drown in the Loch this Phoenix. I don't know if that creature staying in play would have completely flipped this game, but so how it stands, the game ends immediately with that kind of missed cling in the graveyard. That was interesting. Well, I'll quote you on that one.
And Shintaro Ishimura picks up the